In a small, peaceful town where everyone knew one another, a 10-year-old boy named Eli was walking home from school. His backpack was worn, his shoes were frayed at the soles, and his oversized shirt had clearly belonged to his older brother. Eli's family was poor. His mother worked 2 jobs, and on many nights, Eli went to bed with an empty stomach. As he crossed an intersection, Eli spotted a black leather wallet lying near the sidewalk. He looked around, no one in sight. He picked it up and opened it. Inside were a bank card, ID papers, and a thick stack of cash, $500. His heart pounded. With that money, he could help his mom buy groceries, school supplies, maybe even fix the broken heater at home. But then he remembered something his grandfather once told him. Doing the right thing when no one's watching, that's what truly counts. Eli held the wallet in his hands, thought for a moment, and then quietly walked toward the nearest police station. Though he still longed for what the money could have done, he believed one thing more deeply: it was better to do what was right. At the station, Eli placed the wallet on the desk, looked up at the officer, and said softly, "I found this on the street. Someone might be looking for it." The officer was surprised. Everything was still intact: bank card, IDs, and all $500. He asked for Eli's name to record it, but the boy just shook his head and smiled. "I didn't do it for a reward." That same afternoon, a well-dressed man rushed into the station. It was Mr. Thompson, the wallet's owner. He was panicked, explaining that the wallet held the full cash amount for an important business trip. When the officer handed it back, Mr. Thompson was stunned. "Not a single dollar missing?" "No," the officer replied. "A young boy brought it in." Mr. Thompson asked for the boy's name. But all the officer could tell him was. He only said his name was Eli, then left. The man stood still. A poor little boy had just taught him a lesson in honesty. That evening, after dinner, Mr. Thompson sat with his 12-year-old son in their warmly lit living room. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound as he shared what had happened at the station, that a boy named Eli had returned his wallet with every dollar untouched. His son shrugged and said casually, "That's dumb. If I found it, I'd just keep it." The words pierced Mr. Thompson like a blade. He was silent. Not because his son was bad, but because, in that moment, he realized something painful. He had never taught his son the most important lesson of all: honesty and kindness. He looked at his son, his voice quiet but firm. "You know, Eli had nothing. His family is so poor they barely have food. And yet, that boy had something more valuable than anything money could buy: character and integrity. Something I thought you already had." His son looked uncertain. These weren't harsh words. They were quiet, disappointed. They reached deeper than any scolding could. Mr. Thompson went on. "You can have everything: a nice house, toys, good food. But if you don't learn to be a kind person, none of that matters." That night, father and son sat together for a long time. They didn't just talk about the wallet. They talked about choices, responsibility, and what it means to be someone others can trust. Eli would never know that his small action had touched a family he had never met. He hadn't just returned a wallet, he had helped awaken a father's heart. Eli didn't know he had sparked something far greater. He didn't stand in front of a crowd. He didn't receive a reward. He wasn't featured in any newspaper. He was just a small boy in a poor neighborhood, doing what his heart told him was right. At that same time, Mr. Thompson sat quietly beside his son, wondering, what have I really taught him all these years? He had lived long enough to know that honesty cannot be taught with words alone. It must be lived, through example, through daily actions. And on that day, the teacher was a poor boy he had never met. The story of Eli changed Mr. Thompson. He began spending more time talking with his son, not just asking about grades or homework, but asking, "Who did you help today? Did you notice anyone who needed a listening ear? What kind thing did you do that no one saw? These questions became part of their nightly routine. Gradually, his son began to think differently. He learned to listen, to admit mistakes, to say thank you. Not all at once. But slowly, he changed. And Mr. Thompson knew, it all started with a wallet returned in silence. We live in a world full of noise and haste. People easily overlook the small, quiet acts no one sees. But it's precisely those acts, the unforced choices, the unpaid kindness, that truly define a person. Eli wasn't wealthy. But he gave the most precious thing he had. Honesty. And sometimes, one right action, however small, can change an entire generation. Eli didn't know that his decision that afternoon had quietly transformed a family. He had no idea that he had stirred something deep in a father who thought he had taught his child all the right things, only to realize he had forgotten the most important, to live kindly. To Eli, it was just an ordinary afternoon. A lost wallet. A choice to make. And he chose what was right. No fanfare. No credit. No applause. He walked out of the police station quietly, with his worn backpack and scuffed shoes. Yet behind that silent act, something miraculous had begun. From that day forward, Mr. Thompson was no longer the same. He couldn't stop thinking about the boy named Eli, poor, empty-handed, but possessing what many grown-ups still lack. A conscience that stayed awake in a moment of testing. Mr. Thompson changed his own way of living. No more hollow lectures. No more shoulds and should nots. Just action, quiet, daily, human. He became the kind of father he hoped his son would follow. Evenings at their home slowly shifted. Gone were rushed dinners. In their place were real conversations, about what they saw, felt, and sometimes, got wrong. The son who once said, "I'd keep the wallet," had started saying, "Thank you," when helped, and "I'm sorry," when he messed up. Not perfect, but learning. And all of it began with a boy who wanted nothing in return. This world has enough noise, empty promises, and polished masks. But in the quiet, it's people like Eli, the unseen hearts doing what's right, who keep our faith in humanity alive. Not because they seek recognition, but because their conscience whispers, right is right, even when no one is watching. And not everyone is brave enough to choose right, especially when they have every reason not to. This story doesn't end with a trophy. There were no cameras. No audience. But it lives on, in a father's heart. In the growth of a child. And in all of us who still believe that kindness is not lost. Eli may never know that his simple action reached into a father's soul. Changed the way a child was raised. And quietly sent a message to the world. To him, it was just another walk home from school. He picked up a wallet and chose to bring it to the police. No applause. No rewards. No social media post. He didn't leave a full name. Didn't hope for anything but that someone would get their wallet back. He did the right thing, then disappeared into the crowd. But sometimes, small, quiet actions plant seeds in the hearts of others. And when the time is right, they grow. From that day, Mr. Thompson was no longer just a man who got his wallet back. He became a new kind of father. He realized that if he wanted his son to grow up kind, he couldn't just preach it. He had to live it. He changed how he treated people. He was gentler with strangers. More patient with his wife and child. He taught his son to say sorry. To be grateful. To own up to mistakes. Eli wasn't there to witness it. But he had sparked a deep, lasting change in a family he never knew. Maybe each of us will one day face a choice. Between doing what's right and doing what's easy. And it won't always be easy. Especially when no one's watching. When there's no prize. When you're tired and poor, like Eli. But it's in that moment, without cameras or praise, that you meet your truest self. Eli's story doesn't need drama or tears. It touches because it's simple, humble, and true. It reminds us. Honesty doesn't depend on how much you have. It depends on who you are. Kindness doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be sincere. And sometimes, one person doing the right thing is enough to change someone's whole world.